In this video, let's take a look at creating a stamp that uses arc-aligned text. And we'll go ahead and create a block for this and then show you how we create that block and read it back into a drawing. Now, in an earlier video, I showed you how we took Ben's stamp and imported the DWG and created a block for it that we could reuse in Traverse PC. And I've asked Ben for permission to use his stamp in these videos. In this video, I want to talk about actually creating the stamp from scratch. So let's say you don't have a DXF or a DWG of your stamp to begin with. And we're going to do that by taking a look at arc-aligned text. So I'm going to tell Traverse PC I want to get rid of these labels real quick so you can kind of see how this works. Or I could just come in and select these, like that label, that one, that one. Now let's delete any one of them. Okay, so I went ahead and drew two arcs, and those of you who are familiar with creating blocks know that a lot of times we just set our drawing scale to 1, and I can either keep the total diameter under 1 and create a 1x1 block, or in this case I'm just going to create a regular block and not think about the 1x1 stuff. But I've got an arc here, an arc here, and I need the arcs because that's how I'm going to align the text. Now, I'm going to label these by choosing the arc and saying I want to modify object and label it. But first I want to drop into the Traverse drawing settings. So I right-clicked, went to drawing settings, and for the object labels, I want to create a certain size. Okay. I want to use a certain font. I want distance and direction aligned, and I can format those more if I want. And I want to label arcs. This allows me then, and I'm going to tell it I want to do units. So I want the size of these to be 0.35 units instead of 0.35 inches. And we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. So now I'm going to come in and label this arc. And I'm going to label this one. So now I have my arc-aligned text, and it's just a matter of coming in and modifying the text for each of these. So this is going to be Registered Land Surveyor. And now I've got the text in there. And this is going to be certificate number. I'm going to capitalize this. Now, notice that the Registered Land Surveyor on the outside of the arc looks pretty good, but this text in here looks a little scrunched. So it looks like it's kind of tight. So I'm going to go back into that text, and because it's arc-aligned text, I have a couple more factors here. And the one I want to use is the character width factor. And I'm going to put it in as 0.2. So I want to add 0.2 units between each of those characters. And it just sort of separates it out. And I'm kind of looking at, these are almost directly across here. I've got pretty close with what I want here. So let's do the same thing with the text below. Let's double click this one. Arizona, USA is what we want to put in there. And all caps, comma, U period, S period, A period. We want that to be units. And then I want to change this to be date signed 3/29/2021, or just 21. Okay, so the date signed looks like it could be expanded just a little bit to kind of match with what's happening over here. And then it looks like this Arizona needs to be just brought over a little bit to kind of match also. Okay, so let's go into date signed. I don't think I want to separate it by 0.2 of a unit. Let's try just 0.1 of a unit here. And that's probably just a little bigger than I want. And I think they probably brought the size down just a little bit on that, is what it looks like to me. And I could actually go look at the properties in this block to see. But it looks like I've got it pretty close now. So the last thing I'm going to do is just double check that this text now is affixed, and I really wanted that to be units. So let's go ahead and make the heights unit. And I'm looking at the second line in the tooltip that says Arial 35 feet, 0.35 feet units. This is 0.35 feet units. This is 0.3 feet units. And this text is 0.35 units. So all my text is unit text. Now, I could easily add the certificate number, the name, that sort of thing. That's just regular text. But I want to kind of move on and kind of show you what I've actually done here. So because the arc and the text are all based on units, a lot of you are familiar with how this works. I could easily change the scale on that and have things track properly with it. Or let's go to 2 feet to the inch. See how that kind of tracks through? I'll go back to 1 feet to the inch. And I can kind of play around with what works and doesn't work there. But basically now I'm ready to write a block with this. And I could add the other circles and whatever I need to finish up the stamp. But I'm going to go ahead and say Tools, Create Block. I'm going to select all of the object in here. And I'm going to choose center of this, basically right about here. And then I think I've already created one. It's a round stamp. Let's go ahead and rename that one. Everything looks good. I can just say OK. And now I've got a block. And I can go over to a new drawing now. It can be any empty drawing. This one is also a 1 by 1. I'm going to bring in a block. Let's drop down to that round stamp. And there you are. So real easy now to have Traverse PC help me create these blocks that have the arc-aligned text. And we've got the extra parameters in there to create additional character spacing or use a character width factor. And I can specify all this text in units versus fixed inches or millimeters so that it scales with the block appropriately.